Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Alice. I'm a Senior Outreach Specialist here at Jove. And today I have the pleasure of having invited Sarah Tribal-Horn to talk to us and with us about a theme that is very near and dear to our hearts, which is sustainability. So while you take some time to connect, set up, grab a glass of water, I'll do the usual housekeeping and let you know that this is a webinar, as you can see. So we can't see your faces, but we can hear your voices in case you want to communicate with us. So there's a chat box there, there's a Q&A box there. Please use them. We're here to have an interactive discussion at the end of the presentation. So don't feel scared, don't feel ashamed. Any question can be relevant and any experience can be relevant. We really want to hear from you. And honestly, we love it when people just say hi from any part of the world or, take some time to share their experience as well as their questions. So we would really appreciate if you also did that at the end of this presentation so we can proceed with a Q&A at the end. Before I introduce you to our speaker, who very kindly joined us for a presentation on this theme today, I would like to take a couple of minutes just to tell you why sustainability matters. Obviously, it's a topic everybody talks about, and we see a lot of companies and realities and institutions try and work towards the Sustainability Development Goals and many other initiatives around the world. Well, Jove, as many of you may know, is a scientific video resource, which basically allows people to access videos about different areas of knowledge, primarily science, from any part of the world. So sustainability, and in particular, the SDGs, are important to us, and not just sustainability in terms of, resources or environment, which are super important. We're also talking about sustainability from an economic and social perspective. So access to knowledge is one of the SDGs, equitable access to knowledge, and this is something really important to us. We really want to make sure that with the digital transformation that we're going through, we're also making sure that people anywhere can access resources, and it doesn't really matter if they can go to a classroom, if they can physically go into a library. It's our duty as people who provide services and provide information, like you librarians, to make sure that everybody can do that from any part of the world or any part of the campus or even at home. And a second thing that I would love to share with you all before we begin is that one thing we've always tried to focus as Jove is resource management and trying to reduce waste. Now, for researchers, everybody knows the 3R rule is super, super important and everybody's talking about it all the time. Well, one way to make sure we are reducing is making sure that we are reducing the number of attempts it takes us to get to a result. And seeing some video demonstrations, like seeing a video recipe rather than just reading it, can help us reduce the waste that we create and manage the resources that we've got better. So I just wanted to take a couple of minutes to say these things because, yes, we can hear about sustainability a lot, but it's also important to know that there are actionable items and actionable things we can do. And I'm really looking forward to discussing these and many, many more with our speaker today, who I mentioned is Sarah Tribal-Horn, who has joined us from San Diego State University. She is a sciences librarian, but she's also had extensive experience using sustainable tools and talking about sustainability to make sure that the library converges towards a certification program and many other things that she will talk about. She's also been a member of the American Library Association Sustainability Roundtable, and I think this will give us some really good insights into how she, together with her colleagues, has implemented sustainability practices. So, without further ado, I would love for you all to meet Sarah Tribal-Horn. And Sarah, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you so much for the introduction, Alice. I'm going to share my screen and hopefully you can see it. Can you confirm if you can see it?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, great. So I just wanted to say thank you again to you for having me. I am really excited to be able to speak about sustainability in any forum and what we are doing. I really don't believe that we should be gatekeepers of this kind of information and what we are doing. And I really live by the motto of that I got from Project Drawdown, which is every job is a climate job. And please do stop me at any time if you can't hear me. I've had a cold, so my voice is a little funky. So I am going to talk about libraries for sustainability today. So on my agenda, I'm going to give you a quick overview of what we are doing in our library towards sustainability, and I'll share my contact details with you at the end if you want any further information. I'm going to talk to you about sustainability benchmarking processes, including leveraging our strategic plan from the library, mapping what we are doing to the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, and the Sustainable Libraries Initiative Certification Program that we're enrolled in. I'll also go over some of the highlights of our sustainability programs, such as the facilitation of equitable access of information and resources and open access publishing. And I will also touch on some of the partnerships that we have brokered to promote the 3 pillars of sustainability, which are fundamental to everything that we are doing. And those are the environmental stewardship, economic responsibility, and social equity and community engagement. So why do I think that libraries are sustainability leaders? I feel that libraries are perfectly positioned to be sustainability champions for a couple of reasons. First, libraries are hubs for information and learning. So by embracing sustainable practices ourselves, we can set an example for our communities and inspire others to follow suit. We can also offer programs and resources to educate patrons about environmental issues and sustainability solutions. Libraries can model sustainability, so we can incorporate sustainability into all of our daily operations. This can involve things like using energy efficient lighting and appliances, promoting digital resources to cut down on paper use, and hosting programs on environmental awareness. By taking these steps, libraries can make a big difference in their environmental impact. Libraries can also serve as important gathering spaces for communities, either in person or online, as we are trying different ways to do that. And by prioritizing sustainability in libraries, we can show that we are invested in the well-being of the planet and the people who live there, directly impacting our community. And this can help to create a more sustainable and healthy future for everyone. So this diagram provides a brief pictorial overview of what we are doing in our library towards sustainability, and it shows pretty much how everything is interconnected. Our sustainability initiatives in the library include what we are doing in the library, what we are doing with the campus and institution, our benchmarking, the collaborations that we have, and finally, our policy development. So for our library, this has included an analysis of our strategic planning, and aside from that, not just the strategic plan, an analysis of all of our policies. So even our lending policies, our collection development, our digital resources policies, every single policy we have really carefully analyzed. It's also required buy-in from administration because we need their support. And it has resulted in the establishment of a sustainability committee. Regarding the campus and institution, we obviously our campus is San Diego State University, but we are also part of the California State Universities, which is one of 23 campuses. So we have a chancellor's office and have a lot of collaboration with them. So we have drawn inspiration from the strategic plan of our own campus, as well as that from the CSU system. Regarding the benchmarking, we've mapped the work that we're doing to the UN SDGs, and we enrolled in the Sustainable Libraries Initiative Certification Program for academic libraries. And we are also considered a stakeholder now in our campus climate action plan. Our collaborations include our Student Sustainability Organization, the San Diego Circuit Information Issues Initiative, which I'll get to a little later, and faculty collaboration on different projects on campus. And finally, we have developed a sustainability policy for the library based on our assessment of our own efforts, our collaborations, and what other academic libraries are doing in this regard. This is a dynamic policy with action items and input from all stakeholders for our shared governance. So back to the benchmarking process. This is fundamental to all of our efforts. And I do have to put a disclaimer in here. This all sounds like this was all very intentional from the beginning. And it probably was intentional in terms of this is a driver that I live by, as I mentioned, but this was not happening in the library. And I came into this job where there was a gap, and they were actually hosting an exhibit, a campus exhibit on the UN SDGs. So this was kind of like a catalyst for everything that we have done subsequently, because our dean just realized that we couldn't be hosting something from campus without doing this work ourselves. So this is where this all started. So basically, with the benchmarking process, what we did was we analyzed our library website. I've mentioned some of these things. We analyzed our policies, and I sent a brief questionnaire to all of our library employees that included information that we were wanting to get on, like job descriptions. That was really basic responsibilities and any major projects that they were doing. So this allowed us to then articulate the work that we are doing in the library toward the UN SDGs. So as I mentioned, at this stage, none of this was intentional. It was literally just saying, this is the work that we are doing, and this is how it relates to the UN SDGs. So this was really basic benchmarking to give us an understanding of where we stand regarding sustainability to further enhance our efforts. So our next step will be to actually work on how to intentionally work to each of the targets, which is in process at the moment. So this allowed us to articulate what we were doing. For each of the goals, we included at least 3 efforts of where we were working towards them, where we could. We topped the 3 just for the posters. And we illustrated this visually in posters representing each of the goals. So it was a way, and it was displayed in a prominent area in the library. So I'm going to just pop onto what this looks like. So we did include, because the actual exhibit was in English and Spanish, we did try to include some of that. And so we had a summary of everything that we were doing. And then we actually had a poster for each of the different goals. And this really allowed people to kind of see what we were doing and to ask questions. So I'm going to briefly touch on each of these and some of the areas. This is not extensive. This is obviously just what I chose to really highlight what we were doing, but you can get an idea of just how we went about it. So for goal number 1, no poverty, we identified our San Diego State University Imperial Valley campus. We have 2 campuses that provide support to our border community. This campus is right on the border with Mexico, and we have a lot of students that come across the border. So that really provides resources for them. We also have a partner in the library, the Writing Center, which is fundamental for empowering communities and providing access to the skill development, and our affordable learning solutions that I will touch on in more detail later. For goal 2, no hunger, we identified again, the SDSU Imperial Valley Food Pantry, which is located in the library. We support our campus-wide food drives for campus. We have a campus food bank, and we are a drop-off location for that. And then for goal 3, good health and well-being, we identified wellness events such as we have dogs that visit during finals, especially for the students. We have a daily wellness walk, which all employees can join us on. And we advertise free campus yoga and Pilates sessions. We also have inclusive pop-up displays in the library, highlighting local and national events and issues, promoting conversation and dialogue, and encouraging inclusivity of all our communities to make them feel heard and respected. We also have 2 mind, body, spirit rooms in our library, which are warm, welcoming spaces to relieve stress and restore peace and calm. For goal 4, quality education, this includes our inclusive study areas. We have options for everyone in the library. We have group rooms, we have comfy chairs, we have egg chairs, cubicles, quiet areas, interactive areas, and we have a 24/7 area as well. And during finals, our whole library is 24/7. We also have dedicated instruction librarians who focus on information literacy instruction, both in embedded courses and as one-shot instruction. This is dedicated physical and online space of inclusive learner-based information literacy available for all students. And we also provide one-to-one research consultations available to all students and faculty. For Goal 5, gender equality, we have gender-neutral restrooms, a lactation room, and we provide support in areas such as Women by Women in STEM, with our health sciences librarian, STEM librarian, and sciences librarian. And with this in mind, we have also recently been working on a book collection, the STEM librarian and myself. We found a niche in our collection, and we are collecting STEM books with a focus on diversity. So women in STEM, and not just women, but all representation where this representation hasn't been before. And it's a little different for an academic library because these are not academic books. Some of them are popular books, some of them are fiction, and it's really to let our community see themselves in our collection and be excited by STEM. Then moving on to Goal 6, our clean water and sanitation. We have water stations throughout the library that provide both hot and cold water. The hot water is for commuter students that may need access to it for their food, such as ramen and things like that. Moving on to Goal 7, affordable and clean energy. We are benchmarking our energy use with our certification, and we're looking to install solar panels to power the library, which is a long story, but we aim to be getting that done. And we also provide resources to access, such as the Department of Energy data and other energy information. For Goal 8, decent work and economic growth, we provide student employment throughout the year in the library to over 80 students, providing a professional work environment in different areas of the library. So nearly all areas of the library do employ students. We also support career development workshops with the athletics department, providing resources for student athletes, and financial literacy training focusing on Smart Money Week. Oops, I just want to go back. For Goal 9, industry, innovation, and infrastructure, we support the Digital Humanities Center. We actually have a digital humanities librarian dedicated to this, and we provide a safe space for digital inquiry, learning, and scholarship with a podcast, recording, and electronic literature studios. We also support entrepreneurship innovation initiatives through access to library resources and mentorship, and we are a data management center providing workshops on how to responsibly find, manage, and analyze data for research. On to Goal 10, reduced inequalities, open access support and advocacy, collection development, and intentional collection development for previously underserved communities, including but not limited to a Chicano collection, Black Studies collection, and comic arts collection. And our content organization and management department, which was the technical services, we've just expanded it to a fancy department name now, is working really towards ensuring our collection is well organized and managed to ensure diversity, equity, inclusivity, and accessibility to all our collections. For Goal 11, sustainable cities and communities, our makerspace, Build It, helps to develop a student community. It's totally run by students and a place for students, allowing them free access to explore technology, build their inventions, and mentor other students in the process. We also provide sustainability support for campus courses, and we build community through a Living Writer series with invited writers or writers that actually present in the library almost every second week during our academic year. And for Goal 12, responsible consumption and production, our special collections are working towards passive temperature and relative humidity mitigation measures and energy efficient technology. For data management, as mentioned before, you'll see there's an overlap between several of our goals. And we are really trying to work with our purchasing department for eco-friendly supplies, and we have advocated for these supplies where possible. And we also have an events rubric to try and get anybody who are doing events to really look for more sustainable options. Moving on to Goal 13, our climate action. We support green campus initiatives such as the Campus-Wide Sustainability Summit, which we host every year. We have also dedicated workshops and events with a climate focus, including Earth Day events, and we provide access to collections of the Environmental Protection Agency, amongst others. And we established, of course, which I mentioned, a library sustainability community and committee to carry out this work. Goal 14 and 15, life below water and life above land. This, I would say, is typical work of what we do as librarians in supporting research. I really couldn't come up with anything inventive outside our research box and support in this, but we do support the work of our researchers for coastal marine ecology, ecosystem ecology, and global change through collections, consultation, and subject librarian expertise. On to Goal 16, peace, justice, and strong institutions. We provide service to our community as part of our tenure, faculty, and promotion activities. We also operate a shared governance system to enhance community and ensure equity and inclusion. And our special collections and university archives documents and stores valuable university and special collections. Finally, on to Goal 17, partnerships for the goals. We have developed several local partnerships with different groups, which include the Circuit Group, which I will talk about again a little later, which includes all of the public and county libraries in San Diego County, as well as many of the academic libraries. This started as a lending consortium where we can borrow books and resources from each other, and it has developed into more of a partnership to do programming together. We also have the One Book, One San Diego as a literary partner, and similarly to Circuit, we all work together in that. And we participate in international library organizations such as IFLA, and we host library exhibits, partnering with different campus and community organizations. So these posters highlight some of the work that we are doing, and we're displayed in a central location in the library with considerable foot traffic. And the library website also had information on the exhibit highlighting, and which was highlighted through various SDSU avenues. So onto the impact of this. This was essentially the first project on sustainability that we embarked on, and this had a snowballing effect. So I don't want people to really be put off by thinking, oh my gosh, you're doing all this work. It's really been a stepwise process, just really seeing what we are doing and then taking it stepwise from that. So the main impacts out of this poster exhibit were community awareness and conversation of what the university library is doing, and the same conversations within our library, because we are, I'm sure a lot of librarians, if there are librarians here, know that a lot of our work is siloed between our different departments. So this was like, oh, this is really cool. I can see what this department is doing. And it's really nice that it has been like facilitating a kind of connectedness between the different departments. So we also established the sustainability committee that came out of this, the enrollment in the Sustainable Library Certification Program for academic libraries. And as mentioned, we became a campus stakeholder in the Climate Action Plan. We are also represented on the Senate Sustainability Committee of the campus, and now on the SDSU President's Sustainability Advisory Council. And all of this, as mentioned, culminated in the development of a library sustainability policy. Some of the highlights that I mentioned I would get to of this work, one of them is our Equitable Access Program. This is a partnership with our bookstore to provide students access to textbooks. This started as a CSU-wide initiative, and so I'm just going to report on some of what we are doing on our campus. This was rolled out in the fall of 2022. And since fall 2022, there has been a savings of 13 million, almost $14 million in physical textbooks and 7 million in digital textbooks, with a 76% participation of students. This is an opt-in or opt-out, so not all students have to partake in this. And it costs, the student savings are $197. It does cost students 121, not 121, I think it is $21 to actually subscribe to this program. One of the other highlights is our open access work. Since 2020, we have had a dedicated librarian who is the open resources librarian who works. She's also the librarian that works to find these texts for the equitable access program. And she has been brokering deals with different publishers to try and work on this open access. To date, we have published 345, or our authors on campus have published 345 papers open access, with a total author savings of over $1 million. And we now have agreements with 5 different publishers. And I'm just including these stats here because it's always nice to see. It's like really easy to talk about, oh yeah, we have open access, but it's really nice to see the data behind it and to see that these are positive for our community. So we are now working with the American Chemical Society, Cambridge Journals, Elsevier, IOP journals, and Wiley journals, and they're all at different levels, but we are working more and more to try and bring other people on board. So I'm going to just touch on our community partnerships, which without our community, we wouldn't be able to do any of this work. So I mentioned Circuit, which is our public and county and academic libraries in San Diego County. We really, since this was probably initiated, the programming was initiated actually at the onset of COVID, realizing there was a need in our county for reliable health information. So a task force was developed to provide equitable access to health, which is also developed to climate information. So what this task force did was developed an accurate information guide and toolkits to train librarians how to and where to find information, health information that was not like the correct information we wanted to get out. And we also, it was based on a climate index and healthy places index for San Diego County to target underrepresented groups in our area. And we used a large media component to get this information out. So we had adverts on things like bus stops, trolley stops, a lot of public places. And just to let you know that this was funded through grants. So we have looked for grants, especially for this, for collaboration. And it's developed into a climate justice action task force now, for also to provide this information to underrepresented groups. I'm not sure if you know, but at the beginning of this year, San Diego suffered huge floods, and it was these underrepresented areas that were really hit the most. So we really try to get these resources out to them, like where to find the help that they needed, how to look for the resources in their community. This also included author talks in different communities that were also identified through the climate and health indexes. And this was how we then developed and connected with our student group. They were really the ones that hosted our author talks. We left it all up to them. And it was also really well received by the students on our campus. And then the final partnership that we have been doing is that we launched citizen science within the library this year, which was part of my portfolio. So you can see that I have linked all this kind of work into the job that I'm doing as a sciences librarian. And through this, we have linked to some health equity data as well as biodiversity data. We are part of the All of Us program, and some of our researchers use that data. So this was data collection for the All of Us. And the biodiversity fed into the iNaturalist project, which was for the San Diego city for Earth Day, and all of that information fed into the San Diego State University Biodiversity Museum. So everything is kind of interconnected, and we're pleased to be able to just facilitate these efforts. So I just want to kind of finish up with my practical takeaways for this. So for me, I don't want anybody to be overwhelmed with this work, because it is overwhelming when you have to think of it in the big picture if you try and do it. It's okay to start small and celebrate the small wins. So one of the tiny little things that we do is that we recycle bread tags. They're the little plastic tags that are on top of bread, fruit, a lot of different things. They're not typically recyclable in our local recycling, because they require very specialized machinery. In the US, there are only two places that actually recycle them. One is in Tennessee and one is in Indianapolis. And we found a charity that collects these, and she has to collect them in bulk. She was a student. She is actually, in fact, currently a student. And these go to the donations that she receives from these go to mobility products that are especially modified for children. So that was a charity that we found. It was something tiny, but it's really got our library thinking of like sustainability and other efforts. So it was really something small, and it's really taken on like, oh, what else can we recycle and what else can we do in this field? And another big thing for me is that it's okay to be imperfectly sustainable. Every little bit of effort counts. You don't have to think, I can't do this because we're never going to be able to do this perfectly. It's totally fine to be imperfectly sustainable and just take those steps. And my favorite quote is from Margaret Mead, and it's, never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it is the only thing that ever has. So I just want to thank you all for coming to this webinar. And this is my email address if you want any information. And this little barcode will take you to our sustainability guide. You're welcome to share anything that you like out of that. I don't believe in gatekeeping any of this information. I'm happy to share it. And you can modify it for your own use and for your own library. And now I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you so much, Sarah. This presentation was just amazing, because I think just hearing all of this gave me such a positive outlook on life, and seeing how some libraries can really have an impact. Like I know it's obvious. I know we can say, oh, I know we say all the time, oh, but anybody can have an impact. But I really feel like what you've shown us today is an example of a community that cares about these initiatives, not just an individual who wants to bring them to another level, but a really a community. When you said the students received it well, the faculty received it well, I think that's so important to also allow us to continue our work and continue these initiatives and feel like they're valuable for the group that we're taking them to. So thank you so much for sharing your experience with us. I think it was fabulous. And actually, there's a really great comment in the chat by Fred Stoss, sorry, who I'm not going to read it all because it's really detailed, and I wouldn't do it justice by cutting it. But basically, this person is saying that you are very lucky to work in a library setting where you can implement all of these. And I think he's also sharing some of the frustrations that can come from working in a slightly different environment or a very different environment. But I think what you shared with us can be a great source of inspiration for us all. Fred, I know you've raised your hand. Would you maybe like to intervene, say something? I will now allow you to talk if you would like to. Hello, Fred, can you hear us?
Come up. Okay. I work in a large public university setting, and I'm going on a limb here. I don't care. We're not allowed to do an awful lot of this stuff. We put in digital books only at faculty request. We do not put in any PDF files because they are discoverable and they are free. So it's up to the individual student or faculty member to find them and download them and save them. And while we actually have an internationally award-winning, I guess we call it a sustainability office that our university relies heavily and very heavily on providing an awful lot of the SDG compliance. And we've gone, in some cases, well overboard with that. When we were in the process of de-accessing about 300 to 500,000 books, we actually found a vendor that saws off the spines and turns those books into wallboard. We hope that it goes into a library, I guess. But in terms of, we don't have any reference texts anymore, so my reference work has dwindled to, I can't say that every day I did 3 to 4 reference questions a day. I would probably say easily 4 to 5, 6 a week. I did 4 in the past 2 years. So I'm not doing any reference work. In terms of in-class instruction, we do it on request. I did 2 last year and 1 this year. So I think we're regressing in many cases in terms of what we're doing. I chaired our faculty senate. We have a Senate committee on environment and sustainability that hasn't met in 4 years, and I've been asked by our current chair to see if it can be resurrected. But the problem we're having, and this is across our university and a lot of other universities too, is getting faculty involved because they are so overwhelmed with coming out of COVID that the responsibilities that are on their tables now, which in some cases includes a fairly healthy amount of remedial knowledge to the students who, when they were in high school during COVID, didn't learn an awful lot of things that they should have learned to become cogent students at the college or university level. So we've got so many things that are hamstringing us. And I've worked within a couple of library associations on this, and some of the urban libraries, the people who they serve have absolutely no ability to afford to be able to do probably 95% of what's happening. I've gone to rural settings in my home state where we try to explain what the Inflation Reduction Act can do. And we are met in some cases with great hostility because it's part of Joe Biden's communist plot to control their lives by giving them free energy through solar heat pumps, insulation, and everything else that the IRA can do. So we have some really, really steep challenges ahead of us. And we've got to find a way to be able to mount those. And while the libraries are an incredibly logical state to do this, we have to figure out a way to get the libraries into the communities and into the neighborhoods where we can promote these initiatives to their benefit. And boy, I'll tell you, it is rough out there. And what happens in November could make it an incredibly much more difficult delivery to do. What are you going to do when they close, when somebody decides that you're going to close your sustainability and climate programs because it doesn't meet somebody's political agenda? And we're facing that potential because it's already happening in some states in this country, and librarians being charged as felons. I'll quit right here.
Thank you, Fred, for sharing your experience. I think it's really important to hear, also of people who have experiencing some issues and trouble with their reality. But this also means that we care. It means that a large part of people still care. The reason why we're hosting a webinar of this kind, like where people like you and I and Sarah are talking about these topics, in a way, it brings us together. It gives us a sense of togetherness. I don't know if, Sarah, you'd like to share some comments about what Fred said as well.
Sure, I'm very happy to share comments. I do come from California, so we can, and I really acknowledge the privilege of being able to do this work. And I feel that it is necessary for me to continue to advocate for this in this position. So where I know that a lot of other states are not able to do this work, interestingly, my mentor in the certification program is from a library where they are not allowed to mention sustainability. So she has done the certification by reframing everything that they have done in a different way. So it doesn't show up as sustainability. So it can be done. I think that we've also had some discussions and different informal groups about how we can reframe it to support libraries that can't do this work directly and as easily as us. So I think that there will be more of that in the future, and just how we think about doing it intentionally without not being able to do it at all. So I think it's just a matter of having to reframe like how we are saying and what we are doing, but still doing the work. And a community is everything. So it's really getting into the communities, because that's who needs our support.
I couldn't agree more. And I think the examples that you've brought today are not just touching upon the classic environmental aspect of sustainability, but sustainability is something that is long term. It's something that can stay with us for a really long time. That's, I think, the definition of sustainability. And actually, I wanted to share this comment that somebody put in the chat, which thank you so much, Dana Alexandrescu, for writing that. Great approach to go past the green aspect of sustainability. She says, thank you for sharing your approach and strategy in so much detail. I think it's really important to remember that sustainable is something that we can sustain economically, logistically, something that we can make sure the community embraces and acknowledges. So I couldn't agree more with what you said. I think we've got time for one more question. And Angel Valdez is writing, how much do you invest annually to implement a sustainability plan in the library and its main benefits?
So I asked for a budget at the beginning of the certification program, and I was given a budget just for that, which was $2,000. Well, I think it was $5,000, but that was literally to implement the sustainability, because it cost us to join it. It was $2,000. I do not have a budget. I have asked for a budget for this year, considering this work is really important in all aspects. I do not have it. We have state cutbacks this year, so our budget is going to be even less for the library. So this is what I have. My approach to all of this work has been low entry. It's low key. It's things that I can do without a budget. So things that tie into the work that I'm doing, like the citizen science, didn't cost me to do any of that. I tied into programming that was already there. We did apply for grants, so that is how I will have to continue to go about that. If you are in the US and it has related to health or climate justice, the National Library of Medicine have really nice grants for all areas. And that is how we funded a lot of this work. And it is community-based. So if you can partner with your public libraries, if you can partner with your county libraries, if you can find a community partner, they're really looking for those kind of partnerships, so that we're not just working on our siloed communities, but we are working on a bigger community. So that at this stage is how I am funding it. This is outside of my normal job too. This is not in my job description. So it is pretty much, I try to weave it into everything that I'm doing. And so there is no actual budget for this. I really just look at things like, how can I implement this with what I've got? How can I do Earth Day with just what I've got? Obviously, I can print posters and things in my library, so that is not a cost to me directly. And I can pull books, I can do display, I can put my opinion in that. I can have interactive things that are really easy to do, just to get people thinking. And that doesn't cost money. That's pretty much time. And if you can just carve out time, a little bit of time to do that, then I'm guessing that's where that is.
Thank you, Sarah. That's really important. And also the person who asked this question is saying a big thank you for your response, because I think it's valuable as well to remember not everything costs a lot of money. Sometimes it costs time, which is in a way money in the old way of conceiving it. But if we can give people our time and projects our time, sometimes it's even more worthwhile than the actual budget or the money. And it goes back to the concept of caring ultimately. So Thank you so much, Sarah. I think we're getting to the end of our session. We're wrapping up. I know there's a couple more questions down there, but unfortunately we won't have time to answer them today, because I promised we would allow everybody a little bit of time to move to a different room or a different meeting if they need to. So I would just like to thank everybody for staying with us today, for coming, for joining the conversation. I think it was really productive and really interesting. But most of all, I would like to thank Sarah for giving a very insightful and insightful presentation full of initiatives. Honestly, knowing that practical things have been implemented makes things so much more real, because we all see the UN SDGs written up there, but seeing how they can get to fruition, it's a completely different thing. So thanks again, Sarah, and thank you all. You've got a little survey at the end of this webinar. If you want to answer, give us your suggestions, or even just say that you loved it very much. I will be super happy to read all of your comments and implement future webinars according to your thoughts and opinions as well. So thanks again, and thank you, Sarah. It was a pleasure having you with us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Bye, everyone.